Hat trick. Ever heard that word? It's a sports term which is used for a number of sports like hockey, baseball, cricket, and soccer. Now, I'm not a big sports fan and I have no idea of a lot of those words and what they mean. But I used to hear this word hat trick a lot when I was growing up. Cricket is a big deal in India like soccer and baseball here in the United States, and people would go bonkers, I mean literally nuts, when a cricketer pulled off a hat trick. Now, a hat trick occurs in cricket when a bowler takes out 3 batsmen with 3 consecutive balls. It's like 3 wickets taken by a bowler in 3 consecutive balls. Traditionally, it's rewarded with presenting a hat. I think it all originated when some big guy saw it done for the first time and said, "That trick deserves a new hat." And he presented the cricketer with a new hat. Now, isn't it amazing how some words have their meaning tucked away in a little story? We've been studying the story of King Hezekiah, and I have to say, Hezekiah pulled off a hat trick in the first 3 months of his rule. In the first month, he came in with intentionality and he gave 4 calls to action: a call to cleanse, consecrate, commit, and to make a covenant. In the second month, he took the initiative to celebrate the Passover like no king has ever done before. And for that, he invited, invested, and interceded. And in the third month, he had increased commitment to bring restoration and revival. So he took action in organizing, tithing, and leadership. God testified that Hezekiah did what was good, right, and true. Now, what Hezekiah did in the first 3 months of his rule, I call that a golden hat trick. You know, it cannot happen without being completely sold out to the purposes of God. Now, I talked about all this in my previous videos and I'll leave links down to each of them in the description below. In today's video, I want to talk about Hezekiah's immense trust. We've been studying Hezekiah's 5 I's: his intentionality, initiative, increased commitment, immense trust, and intense prayer. Now, I want you to imagine a scenario where homes on your street have been broken into by burglars. Not just 1, but 3 or 4 homes have been burglarized and stuff stolen in a short span of time. Actually, a few years ago, a couple of our neighborhood homes were broken into in a span of just few weeks. You know, it kind of puts you on high alert, doesn't it? You'll be wondering, could my home be the next one? You know, Hezekiah felt exactly the same way. He had a season in his life where he was on high alert, wondering if his kingdom was the next one for the king of Assyria to plunder and take the people captive. Hezekiah had every right to be fearful because of what the king of Assyria had done to the northern kingdom. So for our study today, let's turn to 2 Chronicles 32nd chapter, verse 1. After these things and these acts of faithfulness, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and invaded Judah and encamped against the fortified cities, thinking to win them for himself. After Hezekiah had faithfully dealt with bringing the people back to the Lord and following the Lord himself, doing what was good, right, and true, you would kind of expect that he enjoyed peace and quiet for the rest of his days. You know, sometimes after the golden hat trick, after doing so much for the Lord, we see storms raging in our lives. Sometimes we see right after we sacrificially did something for the Lord, we can see that the enemy has ramped up his attacks. The point is, during those times, it is more crucial to stay committed to your calling and rooted in immense trust in God, especially during the times of intense trials. See what Hezekiah says in verses 7 and 8. 2 Chronicles 32, 7 and 8. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of the king of Assyria and the vast army with him. For there is a greater power with us than with him. With him is only the arm of flesh, or I would say army of flesh. But with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles. And the people gained confidence from what Hezekiah, the king of Judah, said. You know, I really like the fact that Hezekiah speaks confidence into the people at a time when all he can do is shake in his boots. His situation was a situation of terror because of the king of Assyria, because he has not only plundered and taken the entire northern kingdom, Israel, captive, but he already captured some of the southern kingdom cities of Judah. And now he's actually laying a siege to the capital city of Jerusalem. Now, Hezekiah had a a choice to be confident in knowing that God is worthy of our trust or to be a coward and surrender. He chose confidence in God. And that was the immense trust he showed. He didn't speak fear into the people, but confidence, just like the great commander-in-chief is supposed to be doing. He says, "For the one with us is greater than the one with them." It's very easy to trust God when things are going our way, when there is peace all around us, when there are no relationship issues, our careers are going great, our financial condition is secure, we are pink in health, whatever that means, our kids are obedient, all we can do is smile. But what if nothing is going our way? What if there are situations that make us shake in our boots? What if our health situation is so precarious that even to go to the doctor and have it checked, we feel afraid for the fear of what we might need to hear? There is no peace. What if there is no peace in your closest relationships and you're crying out to God, but it feels like your prayers are just hitting the ceiling? What if we don't see favor of God around us? What if we do our best to help someone, but now we are the lonely ones in need and nobody is coming to help us? It's easy to say we trust in God when everything is going great, but it sure requires immense trust when the enemy comes knocking at our own door. Before I go into the 3 questions that Rabshakeh, the commander of the Assyrian army, asked, I want to go a bit further and show you what King Hezekiah did. This is a good one if you want to copy someone. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 19 verse 14. Then Hezekiah took the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And he went up to the house of the Lord and spread it out before the Lord. Take your bad news and spread it out before the Lord. This is an unfair situation that Hezekiah found himself in, that he absolutely had no control over. There is nothing that he could do to change it except only the power of God can do it. Sometimes we are more ready to go to the things in the natural, to the things that we can work out in our own strength. You see, Hezekiah is a king. He could have first gotten to his military and got that ready, or talk to his chief strategy officers to figure out what plan they need to come up with. All these are good things. God has given us an intellect and he expects that we use it. But first, go spread it before the Lord. Take it to the Lord. Don't run off for Google search for your solution. Sometimes you end up with more problems than solutions in Google search because you might end up reading about stuff that makes you more afraid or more worried about. Spread it out before the Lord first. I have to add, Hezekiah did not grow up in a godly home, but his deep, unconditional trust helped him to stay poised in one of the scariest times of his rule. Even if you didn't grow up in a godly home or a God-fearing environment, you can absolutely still turn out to be a powerful vessel for the Lord and thrive for Jesus. Hezekiah is a great example for that. There are 3 questions and 3 suggestions that Rabshakeh, the commander of the Assyrian army, comes with to the people of Judah. His first question is, on what are you trusting? The same story is there in 2 Kings, and it says, what is this confidence that you have? Do you know that our confidence in God can annoy and frustrate Satan? It also sometimes infuriates and irritates people around us. Rabshakeh was so ticked off by Hezekiah's trust in the Lord that he was ranting out loud to the people. In 2 Kings 18 chapter 29th verse, he says, do not let Hezekiah deceive you, nor let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us, and the city will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Do not listen to Hezekiah. That's what Rabshakeh was raging. He was raging that the people were holding on to trust the Lord because of the encouragement from King Hezekiah. When we are firm in our trust of his provision and protection, it frustrates the enemy. So the first question is, what are you trusting? What is this confidence that you have? And his suggestion is, this is what the enemy suggests to us. Come make a bargain. The enemy's tactic has been this, coming to the people with a question and then innocently suggesting something that is completely out of God's plan. In our own lives, we might hear some things like this. How will you ever get married if you only want to get married to a believer? And then the suggestion is, it's still good if he doesn't stop you from praying or going to church. Or sometimes like this, how will you ever find a job if you don't fake experience on your resume? You're not hurting anybody. Man, you gotta fake it to make it sometimes. Besides, you do want to give to the work of the Lord. So I guess that's okay. The enemy has been doing this from the beginning. Ask a modest, unassuming question and then suggest outright disobedience to the Lord. And that's exactly what the serpent did with Eve. Ask a modest, unassuming question and then suggest outright disobedience to God. The second question he asked is, do you not know? In 2 Chronicles 32 and 13. Here is a modest question again, and the suggestion is, make your peace with me. Let's turn to 2 Kings 18th chapter verses 31 and 32. Make your peace with me and come out to me and eat each of his wine and each of his fig tree and drink each of the waters of his own cistern until I come and take you away to a land like your own, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey, that you may live and not die. That's all lies. That's exactly what the enemy tells us. Don't you know that if you don't work extra hours, it's hard to climb up the ladder at your workplace? And then it suggests something like this. It's okay to miss midweek Bible studies or sometimes even church for a few weeks. You need to earn enough to live comfortably. But I'll tell you what, here is the thing with climbing ladders. When you get to the top, you'll realize that your ladder was up against a wrong wall. All your pursuits have been in vain. And then there's questions like this. Don't you know that if you keep saying no to all these parties that your friends are inviting, you'll be labeled as an outcast? You should mingle some, and then if it gets too close to your beliefs, then you can draw the line. As long as it's not bothering you, I think you should go. There are some questions and suggestions that come our way that we need to have discernment to know that it is from the enemy. The third question he asked was, have I not come with the word from the Lord? Now, Rabshakeh, he's pulling out the God card. It's like Satan coming to Jesus to tempt and saying, well, it's written that he will command his angels charge over you, that you will not strike your foot against a stone. So why don't you jump off? Sometimes the enemy's temptations and some trials that we face in our own lives make us give in to fear, or they will have us satisfy a perfectly normal desire in a wrong way or at the wrong time. And it even shows a quote from the word to support it. Rabshakeh was trying to tell the people of Judah that he has come to lay a siege to the land with the orders of God. Just imagine the terror that the people felt when they heard that God himself has sent him to destroy the land. He was suggesting surrender. He was saying, you guys need to give up. Sometimes, we get the same exact suggestions from the enemy. It says, give up. You need to quit. Stop obeying the call of God. Surrender. And it is during these times when everything seems to be going against us, we need to show immense trust and take those letters to God, take those letters of threats and insults and spread it before the Lord, just like Hezekiah did. Let me read what he said in 2 Kings 19th chapter, verse 19. Now, O Lord our God, I pray, deliver us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you alone, O Lord our God. And how do you think God responded to Hezekiah's immense trust? Let's read 2 Chronicles 32nd chapter verse 21. And the Lord sent an angel who destroyed every mighty warrior, commander and officer in the camp of the king of Assyria. So he returned in shame to his own land. And when he had entered the temple of his God, some of his own children killed him there with the sword. So the Lord saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, and from the hand of all others, and guided them on every side. When you have unconditional, immense trust, you cannot be defeated. The enemy wants us to be worried. He wants us to be bogged down, live in self-pity, be afraid. But the best comeback, the best pill, the best medicine is having unconditional, immense trust in the Lord. Now, if you live with that kind of trust, you take away all the power of the enemy. You know, you might have challenges that are huge and extremely hard to handle in the natural. It may feel like I absolutely don't have a chance. But don't be intimidated. Remember what Hezekiah said to the people, "For the one with us is greater than the one with them." So remember, be unafraid and you will become undefeated. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next week.